Hello and welcome to this edition of the Clarendon Chronicles Podcast. My guest today is Olivia Parkes. Liv is a dynamic entrepreneur in the world of fashion and retail. She has many years of senior experience in the brand, communications and marketing sector, operating in the fashion, beauty and lifestyle industries, working with brands such as Reiss, Monica Vinader, House of Fraser and Missima. But at heart, Olivia is committed to creating a business which will revolutionise the retail shopping experience and is backing herself to do just that with her innovative consumer tech business of Persi. Trading off the regularity of her previous senior roles, Olivia is perfectly placed to tell us today what really happens when you make that leap into being a business owner and entrepreneur. And for context, this is how Olivia and I got to know each other, discussing just some of the options around funding and financing for Persi in the future. Olivia, welcome to my Clarendon Chronicles podcast. Thank you so much for your time today in what I absolutely know is always, and I mean always, an packed professional and personal schedule. So thank you for that. Hello, Olivia.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. It's officially my first podcast. So yeah, very excited.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you know, I've only been doing this for a short time as well. And so really interested to find out more about your new venture. So great to see you again. And may I start, Olivia, by perhaps just asking the question that many entrepreneurs get asked. You've got a great role in a thriving organization previously. You're working with household name brands, traveling all over the world. What drives you to think, do you know what, today I'm going to leave all of that, take on the high risk and only potentially high reward option of becoming an entrepreneur and all of those challenges that it brings? What actually goes through your mind when that happens, Liv?
It's a great question. To be honest, you asking it makes me think, why? Why am I doing this? But do you know what, Jeremy? I think for me, I've grown up with a father who has very much built his life on entrepreneurship. He's had several businesses and I've seen him both succeed and fail in those. So I've learned a huge amount. And I guess I've really grown up with that aspiration to, I always say, achieve even an ounce of what he has. And I never knew what that would be in. And I always felt that I was kind of building on other people's what I called golden nuggets. But I knew I wanted something of my own. I knew I wanted to build something that I could stand back and feel like it had made a difference to people in some way. And I guess my first foray was my consultancy, but I knew that wasn't the end goal. So, you know, when the idea around Persi came up, it just felt like I really needed to sort of give it a go.
Yeah, and it's a position which I guess some of us think about doing, but maybe don't do, because we all get sucked into this environment of working for an organization, and we do things and we get our security blankets around us. And you've done this, I'm guessing you're slightly younger than me, so you've done this at a relatively young age as well. So so tell us a bit more. You mentioned Persi there, and we mentioned that in the introduction. What can you tell us more about Persi? What does it do? What's your idea, your creation? How did it come about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you might be right in saying I'm a little bit younger than you, but at the same time, I probably started a business at one of the most challenging times, which was when I'd had a very young child. Persi, my son, my eldest son, was actually just one at the time. And since then, I've had another boy. So I've actually decided to take these big risks and, like you say, step back from that comfort and that stability at a time where that's normally what you're looking for when you're starting a family. So certainly those challenges all came at once, but I think it makes it all the more focused in what I want to do and what I want to achieve with Persi. So yeah, well, the idea, it's an iteration of sorts, I guess, of a number of businesses that I've been working on for the last couple of years. And really what Persi aims to do is make personalization more personal. So during my time as a consultant, I work very closely with a lot of retailers and consumer businesses on engaging with their customer. How do they acquire their customer? How do they engage with them? How do they convert them? And how do they retain them? And during that time, working with a lot of fashion companies as well on that kind of user journey. And I think really what I got to was it costs a huge amount of money to acquire these customers, and it's only increasing, part of which is my budget often from a marketing point of view. But at the same time, there's so much competition online. And as a consumer, how am I meant to find what's right for me? How do I discover something that suits me, my needs and my style? And currently, if you're looking at recommendation models, the other day I bought a pair of jeans to which I was shown more jeans and also more trousers. Now, I didn't need those jeans or those trousers anymore. What I needed was my outfit. So I needed a top, I needed a jacket, pair of shoes to go with my new jeans, to which I was then shown one version of a look, which didn't match my style, and also that the trainers were out of stock. So that stopped my journey. And then I also was suggested other customers bought. Well, I could buy the same pair of jeans as 20 other women and style them completely differently. So those recommendations and that personalization was not personal to me, and therefore became very irrelevant and frustrating. So what, for me, I'm looking to do with Persi, and I guess really what we're trying to go after is making personalization more personal again with recommendations that are based on an individual. And it's really putting that customer first in a way that I always like to say it still benefits the retailer. We're not looking to sort of focus on the customer or focus on the retailer. I'm looking to service both of those customers in a way that benefits both of them equally.
So this is using real intelligence to profile your customers, make it completely personal, solving that problem of retailers not really understanding their customers in as much detail as they could. And your solution is different to other people's solutions, isn't it?
Yeah. So we are targeting businesses, retailers, B2B, although technically we are a B2B2C business. And essentially what current competitors are doing is they're making recommendations based on what they know a customer has purchased with that retailer. Now, I could buy something from LK Bennett, let's say it's a dress, but they don't know that I have this jacket and these jeans. And therefore, they also don't know that they could actually recommend me this top, these shoes, and this bag to complete my look. So they can't service my individual needs because they only have a single view of their customer. So what Persi does differently is essentially allows retailers to leverage the knowledge of what a consumer already owns in order to recommend them more relevant products based on both what they own, but also what matches their style.
Okay, I get it. And you and I got to know each other when we started talking about the concept of Persi and what options there would be for you. And again, just to outline your background again, becoming an entrepreneur means you have to do everything, doesn't it? Because it's, you are the CFO, you're the chief marketing officer, you're the CEO, you're the founder, you're the risk manager, you're the sales director, you're absolutely everything. So, and at what stage is Persi right now?
It's a good question. Like I said, we've been in various forms of iteration. And essentially where we're at today is still in validation sort of phase is what I like to say. So I actually launched an MVP, a minimal viable product, a couple of weeks ago, simply to sort of my community of women. And essentially what I asked was for 5 women that were looking for recommendations based on what they own. They were then sending me an image of 3 items in their wardrobe, to which I then built looks around those products with links to purchase. So I launched that, like I said, a couple of weeks ago. I was oversubscribed within 10 minutes. So I added a paywall, which isn't actually my business model. My model is for the retailer to pay. But what I wanted to do was really validate the demand, the need for this service for retailers. And essentially my paywall was a pay what you want, again, to kind of indicate what level of value the consumer puts on this experience, with a minimum of £5. I think I'm now up to 30 something paying customers, and I'm booked for the next week and a half. And essentially I can't keep up. And what that product does is it essentially concierge style imitates what the technology will do. So the goal being that we are looking to build an AI solution that will allow consumers to upload something they own to get recommendations immediately. And what I'm now doing is I'm doing it manually within sort of 48 hours return. But really, it's allowing me to understand what those key indicators are for the consumer. What do I need to know to accurately recommend them products? And what do they want that user journey to look like?
And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned AI there, because this is, we both know that investors get very excited about AI, but there's a genuine
buzzword.
but it's genuine with your Persi model, isn't it? Because that's exactly what it's doing in terms of forecasting the consumer preferences. And you mentioned, is this applicable to an age group or a gender, or because it feels scalable to me?
It is.
Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, look, I mentioned sort of targeting my, I guess, community at the moment, which is probably women between the ages of sort of 30 to sort of 45, 50. And I think the reason for that is that I know that there is a consumer need. I know that these people are time poor. They have various different requirements within their lives in which they need to dress, whether it's work, whether it's the nursery or the school run, whether it's events or going on holidays. And also they want to look good during that time, but they don't always have the confidence or know how or where to look in order to shop and also dress. So they're looking for that support. So that's where we're sort of starting, where we're going to kind of launch it and target. But you're right, this solution essentially is agnostic. Realistically, what this AI does, and the reason it's AI and not ML, machine learning, is it's not a filtering system. It's not a customer going, I like this, I don't like this, and then you get shown something. Because that, to me, is not actually intelligent. And that's what a lot of recommendation models are doing, or what previous competitors have done. I don't know if you know the likes of Thread. They'd ask you a load of questions. They'd remove everything you don't, show you more of what you do, and that's what you're left with. Again, they're not treating you as an individual. And also they're doing it based on what you're telling them you like. Essentially what we do is we tell people what they don't know they might like. So we tell them what's missing in their wardrobe, and then also what connects to their individual style based on that.
And I think one of the points you raised there, I think really struck home with me, in that you mentioned people, and I think this is really valid. We're also time poor at the moment. And in the old-fashioned days, when you had to go to retail units to decide what you liked, and then you can actually bring it on screen. And I think the whole idea that you don't want to invest time in something, that you can be doing something else. So I'd be a perfect customer, maybe not in the clothing area, but if somebody could show me what I like and put it in front of me, I would be absolutely completely up for that. So yeah, I think it's really interesting,
isn't it, Jeremy? I think so many people just speak to the fact that, when it comes to online shopping, it's so overwhelming now. Yes, in-store shopping has its drawbacks. I can't bear to shop in-store anymore. I don't want to try things on. I don't want to get undressed. I don't want to thrift through a load of things. I'd rather sit on my sofa at home and shop. But what I don't want to do is spend hours browsing, trying to find something that I like, and then ultimately get it home and it doesn't go with what I own. So, I think there's a stat that says that at the moment consumers are spending 6 hours browsing but not shopping. We need to make that whole experience much more efficient, much easier, much more convenient, and also make it fun again.
Yeah. And this is not at a level which is a problem in terms of value. This is not going for £3,000 outfits. It could be anywhere from £10 to whatever it is. This is not any kind of selective AI. This is just aimed at personalizing the process.
Exactly. At the moment, the way that the recommendations will come through in terms of the probably level of retailer and therefore the cost is based on what we know as a consumer's sort of top favorite brands, and then also how we would read the products that they're currently uploading. It's kind of sitting in like a middle ground, sort of high street to mid-level premium, I would say, brands. We're not going after the super premium, but again, it's agnostic. It can work at any level. And I think what we need to work out is, where do we focus our attentions first with those style rules to make sure we get that accuracy coming through, and then how do we build out from there? there. We also know that people that have more disposable income might have a personal stylist themselves, and therefore don't necessarily need this problem, or need this service, I should say, as much as those that are maybe, like we said, more time poor and kind of looking for a more affordable wardrobe.
Okay, understand. Having worked with you, Liv, and seen how you operate, I think it's fair to say, and you've mentioned a little bit already, in terms of the other work that you do in and around your home life as well, with two young boys. In case anybody was wondering, this is for you, this is an all-in venture, isn't it? This is not some kind of, oh, I'll do this at the weekend, I'll do it when I've got a little bit of spare time. As an entrepreneur, then, you've given up all of those things that we mentioned in the introduction with regards to your previous life. What are some of the risks that you have seen, have become exposed to, that people like me, perhaps, and the audience don't see? So moving into your arena now, what do people not see that you have to deal with as risks?
I just want to caveat, I don't want to put anyone off because that is not my intention, but you're right. There's a lot that goes into this. So my current setup is I'm a consultant. I operate, or I should say, I work with clients 2 days a week in order to pay for my bills. I have 2 children that were previously in nursery at the same time. One has just gone to school, but those bills, they rack up. And I've not taken a penny out of this business over the last couple of years as I've been iterating. And so therefore the risks that come with that are, first of all, financial, being able to continue your life in a way that you might want to, or to be able to support it in the way that you might need to. I'm married. I have a husband who is hugely supportive, specifically also with time, which is the next point. Time being that you're right, this is not a 9 to 5. Yes, I might work 2 days with a client, the rest of it 3 days plus the weekend and the evenings. I'm working on this. I'm currently styling until about midnight, just to try and sort of get through it. And I have, like I said, a hugely supportive and understanding husband. Children that I really bring into this whole journey. My eldest Persi, he's 4.5, and he understands the concept of mummy has to work, and then also, I'm doing this because then we can go and do all these lovely things. I say lovely. Obviously, it's kind of like what we can afford at the moment, but we can go to soft play on the weekend. And I think the most important thing is carving out that time. But there are a lot of sacrifices that are made. It is not a quick fix. And I think when I started, I slightly drunk the Kool-Aid of, you come up with an idea, you raise a bit of money, you build a business. It's just not that way.
Not like
and
that.
Really, no. And when it comes to investment now, that first investment getting off the ground, the requirements for that are so much more than what they've ever been. So it's that much harder.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that, Liv. When you and I were talking about some of the options, so I know some of your available slots were, for example, Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoons, Saturdays, whenever you could fit that in. And I think if anybody was to glance at your LinkedIn profile, they will see the amount of networking and events and promotions that you're going to generate awareness for Persi as well. So thank you for sharing. Again, it's not all bad news, but it's certainly an all-in commitment, I think, isn't it? So
it is. And I think your point on LinkedIn, I think one of the most important things that I think is actually quite a key takeaway for anyone considering this is building your personal brand. It's something I've really committed to this year. I've been to a lot of events recently and seen the power and the value of building who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it alongside your business. And it allows both your customers, but also potential investors to really connect with you and what you're doing. And I think that's probably what you're speaking to, and something that I definitely invested a lot of time into and continue to.
In terms of, you've got the business challenges, the creation of your model, the proof of concept. Does that, what you just mentioned there, Liv, does that fall into the category of other challenges that you see to build your brand? So, I mean, in reflecting on your leadership aspects, what would you highlight that you've had to deal with additionally, as you've got the, let's call it, we know it isn't a day job, but you've got the, I suppose, the model of creating and running and founding a business. What other challenges are in there as well? I mean, Is it as easy, for example, to be a female founder as a male founder? What do you see when you go to these events?
Well, easy is definitely not a word I would connect to in any shape or form when it comes to entrepreneurship and setting up a business, for sure. But yeah, you make a very good point. Look, I believe it's the 2% of investments that happen are in female founders. So we're really up against it. I also believe, and I'm not going to voice any stats here because I couldn't back them up, but I know that there is much higher expectations in terms of female founders. I also know, I think it's something we spoke about, how there is something around the fact that when you are building your financial model and putting your numbers together, women are so specific and they are so accurate in terms of what they are going to achieve and how they're going to achieve it, and they will hit those numbers. The irony is often investors will look at it and cut it by 50% because the majority of male founders bloat those numbers by about 50%. So then female founders are actually getting cut by 50% when actually they were probably going to hit that stat in the first place. So I'm learning a lot in terms of like, maybe I do need to kind of back myself a bit more and like add a little bit more flesh on the bone because it's probably going to get cut back anyway. But I think the irony is that actually a lot of female founders are accurate. They do deliver what they say they will deliver. And I mean, look, something I really do believe in is the determination and the resilience required of any founder. If you need that, go for a woman, because what a woman has to go through as a mother, the juggle, the resilience, the I guess the continued kind of like going through the slog of what you know is really difficult to get to where you want to be. That certainly is one of the skills that I have learned as a mother as well as a founder.
Amazingly good points, Lou, and thanks for making them in such a sensible and pragmatic way as well, in order to highlight that. So what's the reward? And perhaps we all maybe we think, oh, it's all financial reward, but I've been quite fortunate. I know quite a lot of people who've been serial entrepreneurs who've made way more money than they will ever need in setting up businesses, creating innovative new business models, and they keep on doing it. So it's not the financial reward that is keeping them doing that. What is it for you, Liv? What's the motivation? What's the dream? And let's assume that financial is part of it, but what would be equally as important for you in terms of success?
Well, I think you're right in terms of entrepreneurs. My dad was one of them. I think it's a bit of a drug. I also think it's something that it's what you get to the point where you're like, it's what I know I'm good at. So why wouldn't I keep doing it? And I'm not always going to get it right, but I'm going to learn along the way. I think one thread that really comes through with entrepreneurs is the continued learning and the desire to continually learn and accept that you don't know everything, but that you kind of want to keep moving in order to kind of feel that sense of achievement. I think for me, to answer your question, like I said, I wanted to build something. I wanted to make a difference in some way. And look, I'm not changing lives right now, and I'm not looking to. But what I am looking to do is really make this online shopping experience more about the individual person. Make this whole experience about you as an individual and look at you as an individual and what you need and what you want. I think people have been looked at as like, oh, you fit in this group and you fit in this group. We're not being treated as individuals. And I would love for that to come back into the online shopping experience. And I would also really love for people to be part of it more. So there's something we're looking into in terms of bringing our close friends and family into the experience to kind of help validate and kind of make it a much more fun experience. So one thing I always speak to with Persi is my goal is really to make shopping more personal, more fun, and more convenient. And if that can help anyone along the way make themselves feel better, then it makes me feel good. I had a friend of mine who did my MVP a couple of weeks ago, and she was 8 months postpartum. She said she totally lost her way. It was her second child. So since her first, for the last 3-4 years, she'd lost her way in dressing, and actually she'd lost her identity. And when she went through this process that we did, and then she actually went into the stores to go and try on some of those pieces, she said not only did it give her the confidence back, she was trying things she never would have thought, and she really thought she looked great, and she did. She sent me pictures. It was incredible. But she was like, it actually was fun again. And I was like, if that can make a difference to women and ultimately anyone in the future, then that would be my goal. But I think to answer the second part of your question, beyond Persi, you know, I would just love to continue to empower female founders to take these risks, even sometimes at some of the trickier times in our lives when we're trying to have families, to let them know they can do it. We can do both. You know, I had a bit of a fear in terms of starting a family. Would I lose, like, would I never be able to work in the way I wanted to? Would I lose my ambition? Would I lose my identity? And all of which at points I felt that way. And really the most important thing has been surrounding myself with other women that were going through this, that could support me and advise me. And I would love to be able to repay that favor, because still we are missing that support for sure.
Some great points, Liv. Thank you for that. So my next question is, having heard you share that and all of those ups and downs and peaks and plateaus and troughs, what would you tell Olivia of 2 years ago to help you through the journey? What would you say to yourself then?
I think, great question. 2 years ago, and something I usually say to my dad is, I just don't know if I can do this on my own. I need a co-founder. I need a team. I also had said only recently, I'm not a techie. I can't build an MVP. I need someone, I need money. I need to build that. I need a tech team. And I think what I would say to Olivia 2 years ago is just have more confidence and self-belief. You can do this. And it's, to a lot of people, that would be surprising that knows me, because they probably think I'm very self-confident, but I still lacked it. And I look at it today, I look at what I've built, what I've achieved, and what I'm doing on my own. And my mentor and my chairman, Sue, left me with this mantra a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really embracing it. And it is, I can, I will, and I am. And that is very much how I am living right now. And that is what I would tell myself 2 years ago.
and one of the most important things which you've done is just, there's never a perfect time to start, is there? There's never a perfect time to start. It's never the perfect place. It's never the perfect time. It's not the right financial situation, but the most important thing is to start. And then you've started, because you're on the journey. So brilliant point. And
just to try, I think as well, Jeremy, just to finish that, I think just to try, if you have an idea, I think before I thought you had to build a whole business. Well, you don't. If you have an idea, test it. Ask a couple of people, send a couple of WhatsApps. If you want to, like, you know, my MVP's on Notion, you can build a website, you know, Squarespace, you don't need these skills. Try something and see if people are interested, will pay for it, and we'll come back again. And those are like those three key indicators. Then it's a kind of an indicator of, okay, maybe there's something in this. Maybe I should look into what that could be as a business. So I think it's also just testing out ideas. And it's something that's come through. I've done a number of accelerators, and that's really come through strongly. And again, if I was starting from the beginning, I would test much quicker.
Yeah, got it. As an entrepreneur, and I'm now speaking as a former executive CFO in my old world, as opposed to being a coach and a mentor now, I can imagine it can be incredibly difficult to switch off. And you just described some of those 7 days a week, 24 hours a day challenges. So how does Olivia manage all of that work-life balance? Because as you just described, then there's never the perfect time. What's your go-to option for making sure that tomorrow's Olivia is still there and up and running? What's your relaxation, Liv?
Well, there's a few things, and ironically, relaxation for most people would not be this, but I think you can see in the background my best friend, which is my Peloton, which I begrudgingly got actually after lockdown when I just had Persi. because we couldn't work out, and I've always been into fitness, and actually has been a lifesaver, and particularly when I've been working from home more, working on my own more, and I guess having higher levels of stress to manage, as well as children, and hormone changes. And for me, the most important thing is carving out time in the day. And I usually try and do it around lunchtime, but it often ekes into about 3 or 4 o'clock where I haven't had lunch and I just need to jump on the Peloton. Because for me, I get my best ideas. If I'm getting to a point of stress where my shoulders are coming up around my ears, I just need to find a way to kind of let it out. And it is more HIIT training. I do a lot of strength work as well using the Peloton, but it makes me a happier person, a nicer person. It balances me out as well. And even 15 minutes to an hour, it doesn't matter. So I'd say that's the most important thing is fitness and movement. And then I also would say routine is probably a big thing. My favorite thing in the morning is actually to take the kids to either nursery or school, whichever drop off I'm doing. And once I've dropped them off, plugging in a podcast, getting my coffee. I get 2 coffees, one for the go and one when I get home in my flask. And the coffee shops all know me for it as well. Having that, coming back, sitting down and sort of starting my day. And then the last one I would say is finishing my day with bath and bedtime. And for a lot of mums, that is probably one of the most stressful times. But for me, because of what I've gone through in the day, I actually find it not only I sort of clock off in terms of work, but I also get those moments of joy where I'm holding my babies and they're being silly and I'm getting the kisses and the cuddles, and it honestly refuels me, Jeremy. And I feel like my energy, when it's at the bottom, it gets right back up and I'm able to go again. So I think those are my kind of 3 key things. The most important thing as an individual is finding out what works for you. Most people would not find working out on a Peloton calming. Most people would need to do meditation, yoga. Most people would not find it being around their kids at night when they're running around screaming. So I think the most important is finding what works for you and committing to giving yourself that time every day.
Yeah, some brilliant advice there, Liv. And I've spoken to a couple of people, as you know, on my podcast, just about dealing with stress, dealing with pressure, and asking people what they do. And I think you're absolutely right. What works for you doesn't surprise me in the least that you're somewhat competitive in your Peloton. And I'm aware of some of the other endurance things that you do as well. So, yeah, absolutely. I think what you described there is really interesting, that you were able to describe something like that, and it's not just I do 24 hours and I do my work with Persi. So, finally, Liv, what's next for you and Persi, and how do people get in contact with you as well? Because a lot of people watch these episodes and I would imagine I'd be quite interested to know how to get in contact with you. So what's coming up? What's next? What's the next quarter milestones in 2025, Liv?
Well, we're entering quite an exciting phase for Persi. So I think I mentioned obviously about the MVP and really building up that traction, that understanding of what the consumer is looking for, and then how we accurately inform our AI. So we are also in discussions with a couple of small B2B retailers to do a pilot there and understand how that differs when the solution is plugged into a retailer versus doing it direct to consumer. The goal being that then at the beginning of next year, we will be looking to raise our pre-seed fundraise. And that will really allow us to build the AI, to remove that kind of concierge style approach that I'm doing at the moment, and allow us to kind of auto-generate those recommendations as the kind of vision is laid out for Persi. So we're looking to sort of launch that around February, March. And we're looking really to partner with investors that share our vision, that really believe in the problem that we're going after and can see the opportunity that we see with Persi, not just for next year, but beyond that as well. So really exciting time. Looking to bring on new partners in order to do that, to build the team and really just get the business off the ground. We feel very confident in where we are now. And I think that's what's exciting, is knowing that we've landed on something that feels very unique and that is being received so strongly from consumers as well as from retailers.
Liv, that's absolutely amazing. Am I going to insist on you coming back? Absolutely, yes, I am. I'm sure people will, with what you described today, I think there's a series of this with you, because I think what we've heard from you today is effectively a diary of an entrepreneur, which is what I hoped you'd be able to share with us about what really happens, how you're managing all of your time, your home life, what you have to do as an entrepreneur, what you had to give up, what sacrifices you make. And I think it's been fascinating. I'm sure the audience will agree as well as to how interesting it's been. And that's before we even get to the interest in the business model as well and how it can affect us. So, Liv, my privilege to have you on the Clarendon Chronicles podcast.